You're too cheap to deserve me. She laughed while leaving for her sugar daddy. So I got rich while she got played. Now she's broke and begging at my door. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. Throwaway account because people involved might see this. This happened about a year ago, but I'm finally ready to share the whole story. Still processing how everything went down. I was with Melissa for 2 years. Met her through mutual friends, and things were great at first. I'm 28, work as a software developer, make decent money, but I've always been careful about spending. Drive a 2013 Honda Civic, cook most of my meals at home, prefer hiking over expensive restaurants. Nothing wrong with that lifestyle. I was saving for a house, maxing out my 401k, building actual wealth instead of just looking wealthy. Melissa seemed to appreciate that at first. She'd laugh about my dad car and joke about my meal prep containers, but it felt affectionate. That changed somewhere around the 1.5 year mark. The first real sign was when we went to Olive Garden for dinner last fall. Nothing fancy, just a Tuesday night date. She spent most of the meal scrolling Instagram, showing me posts from her friends. Look at this, she said, turning her phone toward me. Sarah and Mike went to that new steakhouse downtown. Look at her outfit. That's definitely a $200 dinner. Looks nice, I said, trying to get back to telling her about my day. When's the last time we went somewhere like that? We went to Romano's last month for your birthday. Romano's isn't the same thing, Jake. She set her phone down with a little too much force. That's like a chain restaurant. So is this. You know what I mean. I didn't actually. The food was good. We were together. What else mattered? But I could see she was frustrated. So I changed the subject. It got worse over the next few months. Every time we hung out with friends, she'd get quiet in the car afterward. One night after Dave's birthday party, she finally exploded. Your car is embarrassing, she said as we pulled into her apartment complex. What? Everyone else pulled up in actual cars. Mike has that Audi, Sarah's boyfriend has the BMW, and we show up in this. I looked around my car's interior. It was clean, reliable, paid off. What's wrong with it? It's 10 years old, Jake. The paint is faded. The seats are worn. It runs perfectly. No payments. That's not the point. Then what is the point? She was quiet for a long moment. Never mind. You wouldn't understand. The final straw was her friend Katie's bachelorette weekend in Miami. The plan was a 3-day trip, staying at some beachfront hotel at $400 a night. When Melissa asked if I could cover her half, I did the math. That's $1,200 just for the room, I said. Plus flights, food, drinks. It's Katie's bachelorette, Jake. This is important. I know, but that's like $3,000 total. We could take our own vacation for that. It's not about us. It's about being there for my friend. I get that, but what? You can't afford it. I can afford it. I just don't want to spend that much on 3 days. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You make $75,000 a year, Jake. This isn't exactly breaking the bank. It's not about going broke. It's about priorities, right? And apparently your priorities don't include making me happy. I should have seen it then. The way she was already talking about my money like it was partly hers. The way she couldn't separate love from spending. But I was still trying to make it work. I'll think about it, I said. Don't bother. I'll figure it out myself. She went on the trip. Posted constantly on Instagram. Expensive dinners, bottle service, designer swimwear I'd never seen before. When she got back, she was different. Distant. Always on her phone. That's when I started noticing things in her apartment that weren't there before. A designer purse on her kitchen counter. New jewelry. Expensive makeup brands lined up on her bathroom counter. Where'd all this come from? I asked one evening, picking up the purse. Does it matter? I'm just curious. This is like $1,000 bag. At least someone thinks I deserve nice things. My stomach dropped. Someone. She didn't even try to look guilty. His name is Rick. He's mature. Successful. He doesn't count every dollar like it's coming out of his own blood. I set the bag down carefully. How long? How long what? How long have you been seeing him? We're not seeing each other, Jake. He takes care of me. Shows me what it's like to be appreciated. By buying you stuff. By treating me like I'm worth something. That hit harder than it should have. I've always treated you. You've treated me like an expense to be managed. She was getting worked up now, confident in her anger. Like every dinner out is money you'll never see again. Every gift is something you calculate and reconsider. That's not true. When's the last time you bought me something just because? Not for my birthday, not for Valentine's Day. Just because you saw it and thought of me. I couldn't answer that immediately, and she saw it. Exactly. She sat down on her couch, suddenly looking tired. Look, Jake, you're a good guy. You're responsible. You're reliable. You'll probably retire early and buy a nice little house somewhere. But I need more than that. More than what? More than feeling like I have to justify every purchase over $20. More than driving around in a car that's older than my nephew. More than dating someone who gets genuinely excited about 2-for-1 pizza coupons. There's nothing wrong with saving money. There's everything wrong with making it your entire personality. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. You know what, Jake? I'm done pretending this works. Rick takes me places, buys me things that make me feel special. You make me feel like I should be grateful for scraps. I've always provided for. Basic survival isn't providing, Jake. It's the bare minimum. You want to know the difference between you and Rick? Last week, I mentioned I liked a necklace in a store window. Rick bought it for me that afternoon. Not because it was my birthday or because I earned it somehow. Just because I liked it and he wanted to make me smile. So that's it. That's it. She stood up, already moving toward the door like she wanted me to leave. You'll find someone who's okay with this. But I deserve better. I wanted to argue. Part of me wanted to ask how she could throw away 2 years for someone who barely knew her. But looking at her face, I realized she'd made this decision weeks ago. Maybe months ago. This conversation was just her way of making it official. Okay, I said. Okay. If that's what you want. She seemed almost disappointed that I wasn't going to fight for her. It is. I gathered my things from her apartment. A few books, a phone charger, a sweatshirt. Nothing major. I'd learned early not to leave too much of myself in other people's spaces. Walking to my car, I felt empty. Not heartbroken exactly. More like deflated. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it out. I drove home to my studio apartment, sat on my couch, and tried to figure out what I was supposed to feel. Angry? Sad? Relieved? Mostly, I felt stupid. Stupid for not seeing it sooner. Stupid for trying to make it work with someone who saw my financial responsibility as a character flaw. But then something shifted. Maybe it was the quiet of my apartment after months of her constant criticism. Maybe it was realizing I wouldn't have to justify every purchase anymore. Whatever it was, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, free. The next morning, I did something I'd been putting off for months. I opened my laptop and started researching investment properties. See, here's the thing Melissa never understood. I wasn't cheap because I couldn't afford things. I was careful because I was building something. Every dollar I didn't spend on overpriced dinners and designer bags was a dollar that could work for me. Within a week, I'd contacted a realtor about duplexes in up-and-coming neighborhoods. Properties where I could live in one unit and rent out the other. Instead of throwing money at restaurants to impress someone who would never be impressed, I was going to buy a piece of the American dream. I stopped checking Melissa's Instagram, deleted her number. When mutual friends asked what happened, I kept it simple. We wanted different things. 3 months later, I found the perfect duplex. 2-bedroom units, solid neighborhood. Previous owner had maintained it well. The numbers worked. Rent from one side would cover most of the mortgage, and I'd be building equity instead of paying some landlord's mortgage. I put in an offer that day. While I was waiting to hear back, Dave called. He and his girlfriend were having people over for dinner. Did I want to come? Will Melissa be there? I asked. No, man. Actually, he hesitated. She's been asking about you. What kind of asking? Just, how you're doing. If you're dating anyone. Stuff like that. What do you tell her? That you seem good. Really good, actually. You seem lighter. He was right. I did feel lighter. The constant low-level stress of managing someone else's expectations was gone. I could buy groceries without calculating whether Melissa would judge my choices. I could drive my paid-off car without apologizing for its age. Yeah, I said. I am good. I went to Dave's dinner party. Had a great time talking to people without worrying about whether my stories were impressive enough. Left early because I wanted to, not because I was trying to save money on an Uber. My offer on the duplex was accepted 2 days later. The next few months were a blur of inspections, paperwork, and planning. I threw myself into the process completely. Researched contractors, got quotes for minor renovations, interviewed potential tenants. By the time I closed on the property, I'd already lined up renters for the other unit, a young couple who reminded me a lot of how Melissa and I used to be. Excited about their first place together, grateful for a good landlord who didn't try to squeeze every penny out of them. I moved in on a Saturday in June. Unpacking boxes in my new home, I felt something I'd never experienced before, pride in what I'd built. Not inherited, not financed beyond my means, but actually earned and created. That evening, I was setting up my living room when my phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's Melissa. Got your new number from Dave. Heard about the house. That's amazing. Would love to catch up sometime." I stared at the message for a long time. The old me would have responded immediately, probably would have invited her over to see the place. The new me deleted the message and went back to arranging furniture. She texted again a week later. "Jake, I know things ended weird between us, but I miss talking to you. Rick and I aren't together anymore if that matters." This time I read it twice before deleting. The third message came a month later. "I drove by your old apartment and saw you moved. Dave told me about the duplex. I'm so proud of you for taking that step. I always knew you had it in you." I almost laughed at that one. Always knew I had it in me. She'd spent 2 years telling me I was too careful, too boring, too cheap. Now that I'd done exactly what I'd been planning to do all along, suddenly she'd always known. Delete. It was around this time that I met Emma. She was the sister of my new tenant, helped them move in. We got to talking while carrying boxes, and I found myself asking if she wanted to grab coffee. Emma was a teacher, drove a car almost as old as mine, split appetizers without calculating the per-person cost. On our third date, she insisted on paying because I'd covered the first two. "I don't like feeling like I owe anyone," she said. "You don't owe me anything." "I know, but I want to contribute." It was such a foreign concept after 2 years with Melissa that I almost didn't know how to respond. Someone who wanted to contribute rather than be provided for. Emma and I took things slow. She appreciated that I owned property, but didn't seem impressed by it in the way Melissa would have been. For Emma, it was just a smart financial decision, not a reflection of my worth as a person. We'd been dating for 3 months when Melissa showed up. I was coming home from work on a Tuesday evening when I saw her car in my driveway. She was sitting on my front steps, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. "Nice place," she said, standing up as I approached. "I heard you bought it." "Yeah." She looked around, taking in the well-maintained exterior, the small garden I'd planted, the new mailbox. "It's really nice, Jake." "Very you." I wasn't sure if that was a compliment. "Thanks. Look, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been thinking about what? About us. About how good we were together. Before everything got complicated, I unlocked my front door but didn't invite her in. We were never complicated, Melissa. You wanted someone else's money. You found it. How'd that work out?" Her face fell. "Rick wasn't. He lied about a lot of things. I made a mistake." "Okay. That's it. Just okay. What do you want me to say? That you'll give us another chance? That you understand why I left? I was young. I was stupid. You weren't stupid. You made a choice based on your priorities. Nothing wrong with that. My priorities have changed. Mine haven't." That's when I heard Emma's car pulling into the driveway. She'd been at a faculty meeting and was coming over for dinner. We'd been talking about her moving in soon, not because I needed help with the mortgage, but because we were ready for that step. "Hey babe, how was work?" Emma called out as she walked up the driveway, then noticed Melissa. "Oh, sorry, didn't realize you had company." "Emma, this is Melissa. We used to date." "Melissa, this is Emma, my girlfriend." Emma smiled warmly and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you." Melissa shook it, but I could see her mind working, taking in Emma's teacher clothes, her sensible shoes, her genuine warmth. "She lives here." "Yeah. We're actually looking at engagement rings next weekend." The look on Melissa's face was something I'll never forget. Not quite shock, not quite hurt, but a kind of recognition. Like she was seeing the life she could have had if she'd been willing to build it instead of expecting someone else to hand it to her. "Jake, can we talk privately?" I think we just did. Emma had gone inside, giving us space without being asked. I could hear her in the kitchen, starting dinner. "This is really what you want?" Melissa asked. "A teacher? Someone who'll never be able to give you the life you could have." "What life is that?" "I don't know more." "Better. You're successful now. You could date someone who matches that. Emma does match it. She works hard, saves money, cares about building a future. Just like I do. But she'll never. She stopped herself. Never what? Never mind. She looked around one more time. I should go. Probably. She walked toward her car, then turned back. For what it's worth, I really am happy for you. You deserve good things. I watched her drive away, then went inside to find Emma making pasta with ingredients from my garden. Everything okay? She asked, not prying but clearly willing to listen. Yeah, it really is. That was 8 months ago. Emma and I got engaged in December, with a ring I could afford without going into debt, from a woman who cried because of what it represented, not what it cost. We're planning a small wedding for next fall. Nothing fancy, but everything we want. I heard through Dave that Melissa moved back in with roommates after Rick's debts caught up with him. Turns out the expensive lifestyle was all financed. Leased cars, maxed credit cards, borrowed money from multiple women. When it all collapsed, she was left holding some of the debt. She tried reaching out a few more times. Christmas card, a text on my birthday, a Facebook message asking if I wanted to grab coffee and catch up properly. I never responded. Not out of anger or spite, but because there was nothing to catch up on. We'd both gotten exactly what we prioritized. She'd wanted someone who would spend money on her without question. She found him. I'd wanted someone who shared my values about building a life together. I found her too. The difference is, my choice worked out. Sometimes I wonder if Melissa learned anything from the whole experience. If she realized that the stability and security she dismissed as boring was actually the foundation for everything else she claimed to want. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. I'm too busy being grateful for what I have. A home that's truly mine. A woman who sees my financial responsibility as a strength rather than a flaw, and the peace that comes from knowing I never have to justify my worth to anyone ever again. Emma and I are looking at a second property now, a small apartment building that needs some work but has great potential. She's excited about learning to be a landlord, about building wealth together instead of just spending it. That's the thing about finding the right person. Everything that was a problem before becomes a strength. Everything you had to defend becomes something to celebrate. I guess Melissa was right about one thing. I did deserve better. I just had to stop settling for less to find it. Thanks for watching.